About 30 years ago, I had to teach myself forge welding. And at the time, I had a couple of books on the topic, but they were black and white books, so I kind of had to figure it out on my own. And a lot of them were drop tolerance welds. What I recommend when you're first starting out, do some loop welds. Get a little bit more time to concentrate on sticking the materials together than it is just in positioning the work. Once you have the sensation of how that feels, it becomes much easier to do a drop tolerance weld. So I start with just a little bit tipped over the edge of the anvil and upset. This is going to start to form my scarf. So I have a short, steep taper. Short, steep tapers retain the heat longer than a long, thin taper. I'm also going to put a couple of half-phase hammer blows into the surface over a sharp edge of my anvil, just to give me a surface that's easier for me to coordinate the grip. Bring it in tight, and then tap on the end of the scarf, on the end of the loop. That gives me just a gap in between, which I'm going to apply my flux. One of the other big questions I get asked is how long do you leave it in the forge for? Well, of course, with avoiding a bit of oxide that occurs, but that's why we're using a flux in order to prevent that from occurring. Once it reaches the same background color of the forge, it's not getting any hotter, but it is continuing to erode the flux that we put on and continuing to oxidize. So I try to catch it on a rising heat just as it reaches that brilliant lemon. Greasy lemon's another thing I heard. When the flux is at the right temperature on the surface of the steel, it has a little bit of an iridescence or reflective nature to it. I keep my flux in an airtight container because it absorbs moisture from the atmosphere. There's my joint. I'll apply a little bit to that surface. And then I'm going to blacksmith gently anyway, close that void. So now I have complete surface contact there. My flux has gone through from one side to the other. It's molten, it hasn't skipped any parts. Now I'm waiting for my pieces to come up to temperature. Right now the tip of the loop is hotter than the area where the two pieces are joined. So as soon as they both reach the same temperature, I'm going to come out and strike my first series of blows in that area where the joint is. I'm going to use square, octagon, and round to control the profile so I don't get a starved area with two thick areas on either side. So now we've reached the same right temperature. Of course, the lens on a camera makes it look a lot hotter than it is, but it's still in the upper end of what our forges are set at. My critical thing is getting that piece of the scarf down first, right there. Then I can go onto the sides, octagon and round. I'm going to add a little bit more flux just at the top. I'm doing is when I bring the work down on the anvil, there's no gap, no airspace between the hot work and the anvil. If I make it bend to reach that surface, it creates new challenges for me. So as soon as I put it there, the loop will be out in the air and only the area that I want the forge weld will be on the anvil. Now this is what I use to make a lot of my toasting forks or barbecue forks. So I'll make the loop symmetrical, cut it in the middle, and draw out the tines or the points of the fork. Hopefully that helps in your practice.